Hi everyone, it's Jennifer. Today I am part of the Mama Elephant 2nd anniversary blog hop, and I'm going to show you how to create a fun and playful shaker card with a stamped window. This is very easy to do, and I'll also have some tips and tricks along the way for creating shaker cards and also creating like this soft sky background with lots of glitter on it. It's very easy to do. Now these are new products from Mama Elephant, and if you click here or in my YouTube description below, it'll take you to a video where I show you a close look at all of the products in this release. I'll be using some of them in the video today. Okay, so let's get started. I have a piece of white cardstock here cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. The size really doesn't matter. I'm just going to use a little bit of tape to hold it in place while we work on it. I have this sponge inking tool. Any kind of inking tool would work for this. I have found that these new Mama Elephant pigment inks, these are some of their newer colors, are fantastic for getting easy blending on a background. So I'm starting first with the rainwater color, and I added some of that to the background, and look how easy it goes on with the sponging tool. Now before I move on to the next color, I kind of rub off the excess ink over off to the side. I don't have a sponge for every color of ink, I just have one for each kind of color in the color family. Now I'm coming in with the Stargazer. It's kind of a royal blue, and you'll notice that I'm kind of overlapping with the ink I already put down, and it's so easy to make this blend. I like the sponging tool for pigment inks because it kind of is curved on the side, so you don't end up with these like real strict lines around the edge when you take the ink to the paper. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to put a heavy amount of that darker blue, of that Stargazer color, down towards the bottom, and then I'll just kind of fade it in. I'm taking a lot of time to blend here. You really don't need to spend this much time if you don't want to. The nice thing about pigment inks is, say you go too dark, you can go back on top of it with a lighter ink and kind of cover it up. And if you get a little lighter ink on your darker ink pad, you can just wipe that extra away. So I'm going to come in with one more color. This is Dark Storm. It's like a darkish grayish blue color, and I'm going to blend this in too. Now pigment inks, they sit on top of the paper and they're kind of thick. They're more opaque than a dye ink. So you can put lighter colors on top of darker colors if you wanted to. So now once I have all of these colors down, I'm just going to lightly rub my inking tool over the whole top of it so that I have a fresh coat of that ink over the whole top, because I'm going to come in and add some embossing powder on top of this. So I want it to still be kind of wet. This is one of the great things about pigment ink, is you can put embossing powder on it. So this is a sparkle embossing powder. I don't really care if it's perfectly even. I just want to get lots of that glitter in the background. So what we're going to do is have this, this blue background that fades from light to dark, and it will have a little bit of clear shine because of the embossing, but it's going to have lots of glitter because of the embossing powder that I used. And it's like you've created your own glitter paper. It's just so much fun and perfect for a night sky. So now that we have our background together, let's go ahead and make our shaker card window. So I need to have this white frame around the outside, and all those little sequins will kind of shake around on the inside. I'm using this die set from Mama Elephant. This was released a while ago, but I think it's fantastic for these shaker window cards. I'm actually using this small rounded rectangle with the faux stitched edge for the inside of my window. And for the outside, I'm using this large faux stitched edge die. And this cuts, the outside edge cuts to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it fits perfectly on the entire front of a white note card. So I have some white paper here. I'm just going to go ahead and cut these frame dies from that white paper. And I'm positioning them perfectly kind of centered inside of each other. I have a magnetic platform under there to hold these in place, but you could use tape if you need to. Just have them centered inside of each other. Run it through my machine, and I'll end up with the frame for my shaker card. And then I'll also end up with a piece from the middle that I can save for another card. That's a nice thing about doing this kind of die cutting. You end up with 2 pieces, which is always great. So I'm just going to hold this piece. I'm not actually going to use this white rectangle. I'm just using it as a guide to know how much to trim off the side of this blue piece, because I don't need all that extra behind my shaker window. And you'll see in a moment why. So I'm going to set that white rectangle aside for a future card. Now I'm just going to put this on here, make sure I like the look of it, and yep, there we go. We have the blue that just shows right through the center of our shaker window. Okay, so now it is time to do some acetate stamping. We're going to actually stamp on the front of this window of our shaker card with white StazOn ink. Shaker cards are very popular these days, but I think it's fun to add stamping to the front of the window too. So here are some tricks for you for stamping on acetate or clear transparency. I actually have some clear transparency that's left over from packaging. It's a thicker transparency. You can also buy Hero Arts acetate note cards if you want to. And I practice stamping over there off to the side, and that's why you see it already stamped. So I have this image from one of the other Mama Elephant stamp sets. I'm going to ink it up with my white StazOn ink. This is by far my favorite ink for stamping on acetate. The white is perfect for it. And I'm just going to stamp right onto the transparency or the acetate. I'm going to stamp straight down and straight up, and check out that crisp white image you get. Now, here's the trick. You want to set that aside to dry on its own. Don't try heat setting it, just give it some time to dry. Here's another trick. You really need to clean the stamp off. I wouldn't recommend StazOn cleaner. I would recommend a cleaner that is safe for clear stamps. This Ultra Clean from Hero Arts is perfect. I just spray some onto my scrub pad here, and then I clean off on the other side, and then clear it off with the baby wipe, and that just will come off completely with that cleaner. If you don't have the scrubber pad, you can just put a little bit of that spray on a baby wipe and wipe your stamp clean. So while that sits aside and dries, I want to go ahead and create our little penguins, and then I'll come back and share some more tips on that acetate when it's done drying. I'm going to stamp these little guys, these adorable Mama Elephant penguins, with some Copic friendly black ink, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of Copic marker here. I'm putting a little peach on his cheeks just to kind of give them a little bit of color there. Then I'm going to come in and I'm actually going to make them sing. I want my card to have little music notes coming above them, so I actually made their little beak or whatever open, so it looks like they're singing. So I used a black pen for that, and now I'm just adding a little bit of some orangish yellow to their little beaks and to their little feet. Now I'm going to just take a light, super light gray marker to add a little bit of shading on their bellies. I like to use C00 because it's really not necessary to blend this out because it's so light. It just adds a little touch of shading. Now there are matching dies that you can use to cut these little guys out and leave a white trim around the edge. But I like to fussy cut right up against the edge, so I'm just going to use my scissors to do so. Now that our acetate is completely dry from the greeting that we stamped, let's go ahead and put the window together. I have my frame and I'm putting adhesive along the back of the frame. This is Tombow Extreme adhesive. It's very, very strong. And I'm going to take this and put it right onto our acetate. And you can see our sentiment is dry there and nice and crisp white. Now the extra acetate that is hanging off the right and the top, I'll just take my scissors and cut off very quickly. And then we have our stamped acetate window for our shaker card. Now I mentioned I wanted to share a few other tricks of working with acetate. Sometimes I find that when I stamp with the slick ink on the slick surface, that sometimes I wiggle and I don't get a crisp image. If that happens for you, all you need to do is grab some rubbing alcohol. So remember that extra stamped image I had earlier on the acetate? I'm going to grab that right now and show you how you can erase the stamping and start over if you need to. I have these alcohol swabs I like to keep in my craft room, and you just take it and rub it right on and watch this. It completely comes off, so then you can just clean it clear with a baby wipe and start all over. I got a little ink where I didn't want to up there, so I can just erase it with the alcohol swab. I love this trick, and it's a great way to retry if you don't stamp successfully the first time. Okay, I also decided I wanted some music notes, so I arranged them how I wanted on the window, press my acrylic block onto them so they're all positioned perfectly on the block, add some white StazOn, and I'm going to quickly stamp these. With the StazOn, you just want to stamp straight down, straight up very quickly, because the longer you hang out there, the better the chance of your wiggling and having to start over. So now I'm just going to glue my little penguins down just with regular adhesive, because you can't see the back of this because there'll be a shaker card behind it. So I'm going to glue these guys down and then also glue a hat on top of the larger penguin. And so because I made the beaks a little bit different, it looks like these little guys are singing. I don't know, I just thought it'd be fun to do. I love this sentiment. Okay, now it's time to make the shaker box. To do this, I'm putting foam tape on all four sides of the back of the frame, and I'm putting all the tape up against each other. So there are no openings so that my little sequins don't fall out. So it's all enclosed there. So once I have this done, I can fill this with as many sequins as I want. I tend to go pretty light on it because I want the focus to be on the stamping, not on the sequins. So I use these clear kind of iridescent sequins from Simon Says Stamp, and I put some of the smaller ones in there. I don't do too many because I really don't want it to be too distracting. Just a little bit of fun in there. You could even put in glitter if you want to. So now that I have all those pieces in the center, I'm going to carefully remove my release paper. And I have that blue glitter paper that we created earlier. I'm going to glue that onto the back to enclose everything. So now we can press this down firmly and you don't have to worry about them shaking out. Now the remainder of that foam tape that's showing, we'll glue this onto our white note card. So this note card is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and the piece we cut is that same size, so it covers the entire front. And there we have our perfect shaker card. You just got to press it really well and you're good to go. You can see that all the little sequins move around, but they're not too distracting from the stamping that we have on the acetate window. I think it's super fun to do the stamping on the acetate window. It just adds some extra fun and interest, and so much better than just gluing a sentiment on top. I also am going to stamp the fa la 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 message on the inside. It's from the same stamp set, and I thought it would look perfect in there to go with the sentiment on the outside. So there you have a way you can create your own glitter background using the Mama Elephant pigment inks, and also how to stamp on acetate windows of shaker cards. Again, this is part of the Mama Elephant 2nd Anniversary blog hop, so be sure to click on over to my blog. There's lots of great artists as part of this hop and some fun prizes. Also, if you're interested in the products I use, I link to multiple sources below in my YouTube description. You can also head over to my blog at jennifermcguireinc.com for more information. Also, as I mentioned, I did do a product release close-up video on all of these new Mama Elephant products, so you can check that out too. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up so YouTube knows you want to see more. Thanks so much for stopping by.